through colleagues in other areas, and I'm thinking again of the Kirby report. I guess what has to be brought together, and it's going to require a central thrust from both Commonwealth and state governments, is the Kirby report, the Youth Guarantee and the Blackburn report. They're all the problems of education and training.
Are the proposals contained in this report unique or the first of its kind in Australia?
I wouldn't call them unique. Certainly at least one other state, and that is Queensland, are working in a similar direction. And I would imagine that because of the problems of retaining or encouraging young people to stay through to year 12 does require similar changes elsewhere. In other words, there are national issues here.
But do you treat this as a first for Australia?
Yes, I do.
Your predecessor, I think, said at the time of the release of the discussion paper that he felt that the Blackburn proposals could be implemented without extra costs. Now, from my reading, the recommendations, it's going to cost more than $60 million over 3 years if they're implemented. Now, are you concerned about that, and are you prepared to look at that sort of extra expenditure?
The costs are a matter, again, which I'll have to further work and advice on. The specifics in the report suggest that in the new body to set up replacing VICE has an additional cost of about 2.5 million, and the report does suggest an additional 10 million.
Put Victoria's education system in relation to the other states if those recommendations are implemented?
Well, in my view, we've got the best system here in Australia, we've got the best standards here, and the best quality, and certainly one of the best developed TAFE systems, and I think this is going to continue to give us the lead in education.
Will Victoria be the first state in Australia to abolish the high school certificate?
I'd have to ask for advice on that, Helen.
Well, it's not really a question of abolishing the high school certificate,
No,
it's a question of incorporating that into a new certificate.
Will there be any difficulties translating that state qualification onto a national level for tertiary education?
I wouldn't imagine so, because that move towards wider entry or wider means of opening up a number of paths so that you can get wider ways of getting into tertiary institutions is a basic thrust that's occurring over the whole of Australia, and I think that's going to continue. And I think one of the good things about the Blackburn report is that in fact it does widen up those pathways through to higher qualifications.
Yeah, seeing that the reforms are so widespread and do involve the Commonwealth, is there likely to be a meeting of state and Commonwealth ministers on the recommendation?
Changes in job and occupation as a result of those technological changes. So it's an attempt to place the students in the real world and so that they can understand that world better.
Tertiary entry, it seemed to me that
Rolling, take it 3 from now, please.
Mr. Cathie, when do you think you might begin implementing some of these programs? Some of them have timetables written into them that would change in 6 months.
Yes, there are very tight timetables that are recommended in the report. Some of them we can see that we can go ahead and implement in the time frame suggested, such as the abolition of VICE and the setting up of a new certification and accreditation body. Others I'm seeking advice from a wider consultative committee as to whether those timelines are too tight or whether they're achievable and in what ways that they're achievable.
What role would the Commonwealth Government have to play in making these recommendations work?
Well, I believe that the Commonwealth Government does have an important role to play. If state governments, and we're all being successful at this stage in getting greater participation to years 12, and if we're to achieve the goal in the Blackburn report to achieve 70% of students going through to the end of year 12 of secondary education, then it doesn't make any sense if a curtain is brought down and they can't immediately go on to higher education if that is their wish. So what we've put to the Commonwealth Government is that whereas only 42% at the moment who complete Year 12 can gain entry into tertiary places, we're suggesting that that figure ought to be 50%.
Shouldn't you be assured of their cooperation and funding before you react so enthusiastically to these recommendations?
Well, this is happening now. Whether these recommendations are put into effect or not isn't going to alter whether there will be an increasing number of places made available in institutions of higher education. So it's a problem that's there, but it's going to be a problem that's becoming more urgent if we succeed, as we hope to do, in achieving the goals of the Blackburn report.
Do you see the education in Victoria?
Values are there. It's a wider curricula, but the skills are going to be the same. I'd see it a toughening up in terms of skills because all students are going to be required to do some English, some mathematics and some science. And I think the essential skills of oral and written communication and reading with understanding are skills which have to be exercised in any subject or curricula.
Thank you. Must be nearly out of film.
Thank you.
Or for a tutor.